It's the Brad and John Show.
For March 19th, and this is the C block, the Charlie block, which means we start at about 7:40. Okay, John, you're a baseball guy, right? You like baseball?
I do. I love baseball.
Okay, do you know about the crazy thing that happened? And it's interesting because if you look at the official things, they say that the baseball season for 2025 started on March 18th/19th. Do you know the reason for that?
No, I don't.
Because I don't get this. The Major League Baseball season has started already because of the fact they did a game in Tokyo. Do you know about this crazy thing?
Yeah, I was going to say a foreign game. Yeah, they usually, and they'll play one in England once in a while. I didn't know that they played a game in Tokyo already.
Yes, and the reason they said the baseball season in 2025 started in 2018 or March 18th/19th because of the fact that they, in Tokyo time, the game time, it essentially started on the 18th in the United States and it ended on the 19th in the United States, which is the game's over now. But do you get this? And once again, the regular season season doesn't start for like another, 10 days or something like that. Why do they do this? Does this make any sense to you?
Yeah. I think it's a really cool promotional thing. I mean, I think it's the same thing as the NFL plays games abroad. I think you're building an international fan base. Japan has a rich history of baseball from the Yakult Swallows and other teams over there. And I think that, you have Japanese baseball players in America. So I think it's a great opportunity to make more money. Go over there, have a big event. More people will be buying hats and jerseys in Japan this month than they would if Major League Baseball hadn't gone over there.
Yeah, but if you're a season ticket holder, you got one less game, right?
That's a very short-sighted, myopic view of it, Brad. Thank you for sharing that and showing people what it's like to be so short-sighted.
But what if you're an NFL season ticket holder and you have 8 home games and one of them's gone because it's in England? Then does that?
Yeah, you know what? And you know why it's so sad, Brad? Then those season ticket holders who you usually would hate because they've worked hard and actually made a decent living, you'd usually be criticizing them. Those season ticket holders can make their objections known to the team. And if you don't like it, don't renew your season tickets. You think the Arizona Cardinals care if you cancel because they play one game abroad? Let the Brad Hildebrands of the world complain about, they shouldn't go overseas. Good for them. I think Major League Baseball should play more games over there, Brad, just to annoy you.
Okay, so here's my point. If you had the CEO of the Los Angeles Dodgers and a person complained about the fact that instead of getting their 81 season ticket home games, they're only going to get 80. Let's say that CEO of the Dodgers goes to the grocery store and he buys a carton of a dozen eggs. And he gets to the checkout, for some reason he says, I should take a look at these eggs mix. They're in good shape.
Yeah, okay, so I get the point. He's got one more than he thought he paid for. I bet you that packaging, Brad, I bet you when the season ticket holder bought the tickets from the LA Dodgers, they said, here's the schedule for next year. We'll be playing 80 games at home instead of the usual 81. You don't like it? Don't write your ticket. Don't write us a check. You don't like it.
No.
Are you suggesting that Major League Baseball executives lied to their season ticket holders, Brad?
I did. I will. I said, but
yeah, they didn't. And you're being. I get your point here, and you're making the argument that season ticket holders are losing a game when I guarantee you the season ticket holders were. Do I need to do research on this and prove that you're wrong, or are you gonna keep following
John,
up on
let's not use Los Angeles. Let's use St. Louis as an example. So you're telling me that it's not a lie that the Cardinals are saying, we don't have any money to fix our ballpark. It's 20 years old now.
Yeah, and that's not what we're talking about.
And we need tax dollars because we don't make any money. When you buy that $50 beer, we only make 10 cents profit on it.
Hey, you're right about that, Brad. You're sure right about that.
It's like to me, see the thing about it is, Jason Rosenbaum didn't ask my question yesterday. My question was, he put on his website or his Facebook page, hey, if you've got any questions for the debate between Tashara and Kara, tell me, I'll relay the questions on the air. I say, why aren't you going after the Kansas City Chiefs and the Kansas City Royals? Put the
Oh,
Chiefs.
yeah, great question, Brad.
Put the Chiefs in the Twa-Dome and put the Royals in Busch Stadium, and instead of having 82 games or 81 games, we have 162 games of baseball. Think about what that would do. Think of the economic impact. If the Cardinals can, make an economic impact in the city of St. Louis and downtown St. Louis with 81 games, wouldn't it make sense that the economic impact would at least be maybe not double, but maybe 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 multiplier if we had games almost every night from April through September? Wouldn't that make sense, John?
Yeah, that's a wonderful idea, Brad. And why don't we bring a basketball team here, and why don't we bring a second hockey team here too?
We had the hockey team out at the Family Arena, and we had the basketball team at the Family Arena, the Swarm. They just kicked butt. Okay, you sent this to me, and I saw it, and this is why I'm very sad about this. There's an article in a website called Radio Insight. I'll read you the headlines, and John already have seen this article and he sent it to me. 20 Cumulus and Town Square media stations cease operations with more to come. And what John pointed out was, if you read these are stations all over the country. These two companies are literally flipping the switch on the transmitter. They are turning these stations off the air. And one of the stations is, actually two of them, what is that? What are those stations, John?
Was one KLIK? Was one Click in mid-Missouri?
Yes. Conservative Talk 1240, KLIK. They're on 1240 AM and 103.5 FM. They feature Westwood One's suite of conservative talk programs. It's going bye-bye. Also, Classic Hits 97.5 in Lynn, Missouri. It's going bye-bye as well, too. Okay. Your opinion on this?
My view of radio has changed a lot, having worked with you, Brad. And I don't know if radio is a dead industry or if the people who run radio just make really poor decisions and if radio just attracts people that aren't very good at business. So I've only been doing this 16 months with you, but I can't figure whether radio's dead or whether radio operators are just terrible business people.
Okay. Let me give you a little bit of insight. There's two big broadcasters. The two biggest broadcasters are iHeart and Cumulus, okay? iHeart had its problems. It had a debt problem, and they got that taken care of, went through bankruptcy, as did Cumulus. Cumulus has already been through Chapter 11 once. There's a good chance they're going to go through Chapter 11 twice. They're not doing very well. Their stock prices down into the penny stock range to the point they've already been notified by NASDAQ. They're not in compliance, yada, yada, yada. Okay, iHeart is doing quite well. Can I give you the difference between the two?
Yeah, please do.
iHeart is run by an interesting guy by the name of Bob Pittman, who in the history of radio and in the history of television, Bob Pittman was behind things like MTV and VH1 and things like that. Bob Pittman is a media genius. He knows the industry. He knows radio. He's a former disc jockey, okay? This guy worked his way up from, I think he started like when he was 12 or 13 years old and worked his way up into the point where he's run iHeart for, I don't know, at least a decade now, okay? Cumulus is run by a lady who never stepped foot in a radio station until she got the job at Cumulus, okay? You get my point there, John?
I do. Yeah. So you have a real live radio person who has experience and who's actually had a track record of success. And then you have somebody who's just a keyboard jockey who's never actually run a radio station.
Right. Well, now some people will say that Bob Pittman has turned iHeart into what we call in the radio business McRadio or the evil empire, whatever it is. But the point being is that what's happened to the radio industry is not the fact that, and I run into this all the time. I go out in sales calls. Well, does anybody listen to the radio anymore? I start off by saying, do you believe Nielsen? Do you believe the Nielsen ratings? Oh, yeah. 90% of the adult population listens to radio at least once a week. And that shocks me. How is that true? How is it? I don't believe that number. Look, here's the numbers. You know what? If you don't believe it, not my problem. But here's the numbers. Here's what this company says, okay? The problem is most of the stations have been gobbled up by these big companies who took on this tremendous amount of debt. And you and I have had this discussion before. They don't know what they're doing because they have taken the essence out of radio. They've taken the fun out of radio. They've taken the spontaneity out of radio. The crazy thing about it is there are stations that are doing just great. And you know where most of those stations are? They're in their small and medium markets. They're in the small and medium markets, and they're typically locally owned and operated because of the fact that they're run by radio people, or at least people who understand the radio business. They're not corporate dudes who, if we buy 500 radio stations, we'll be able to do,
we'll make it. We'll have all these efficiencies and synergies.
Right.
So, Brad, let me interrupt. If some radio stations are actually making money and are successful, why doesn't everybody copy their format?
John, you and I talked about this before because of the fact that, I say it again, it's guys like you that have caused the problem because you're a stock trader dude. You're a stock trader dude.
I'm not a stock trader, but I pay a lot of attention to investments. But go ahead.
You're an investor.
So your point, and your point that you've made many times, is that when companies are owned, when they're publicly owned, they need to make the next quarter's numbers because investors actually expect a return on their investment. Brad, what's the likelihood you could go to Bank of Washington and get $100,000 and Buzz Eckelkamp says, "Hey, what's your plan for making money?" And you say, we're going to try real hard and sell ads.
No.
Buzz Eckelkamp is going to want a return on his investment, right?
No. The question that gets asked, trust me, been in that seat many times, never with Buzz, but with all sorts of other bankers. The question is, or the reason they have no interest, and I just was in a banker's seat 2 weeks ago. Same thing. And the bizarre part of this was the banker's office I was in, a guy who used to be in the radio business.
And he knows that it's a failing business, right?
No. His whole thing is he puts on his banker's hat. He doesn't give a rip about the radio business. All he cares about is, if you don't make your payments, how am I going to get my money back? And the problem is, if you can't do it with a broadcast license, because the broadcast license cannot be assigned through a bankruptcy, stuff like that. Okay, so in other words, there's no collateral. If you go into a bank right now and you say, I need a $20,000 signature loan, and the banker say, fine, because he knows John Combes has a nice car, has a nice house, stuff like that, and they can come after you for your house, your car, whatever. But the problem with this is that what is the value of a radio station is not necessarily its studio facilities or where they're at, or fancy smanchy looking studios or stuff like that. It's the license. The license, because the broadcasting business essentially is a controlled monopoly, or because of the fact that there's only so many licenses out there. The FCC is not issuing new licenses left and right. It's very tough to get a license. Matter of fact, in AM, you can't even get an AM license anymore. They're not issuing any license at all. So the problem with that is that, and I think what's frustrating to me is there's all sorts of guys. I'll name one right now, and he'll never hear this, but I'll make fun of him. A guy by the name of Bud Janes. Bud Janes is a guy who made a fair amount of money in the radio business. Matter of fact, I think he actually sold out to Town Square, which is the company that's talking about they're shutting down some of these radio stations. I haven't heard from Buzz in a couple of years, but not Buzz, Bud Janes. He'd call me up and he'd go, "Hey, Brad, you still running your radio stations? Still losing your butt? I got out of the business, and I got out 5-10 years ago when there was money to be made. Now I'm got a house down the Lake of the Ozarks, got a nice house up in Hannibal. I take nice vacations, and you're still slugging away at the radio business. Hey, Brad, stupid jerk you are." That's Bud Janes. And the problem with that is that if guys like that were still in the business, we would be doing great. But these guys all sold out to these big companies, and they're flush with cash. They're sitting around bragging about their house down at the lake, how they got a big boat with 3 250 horsepower Merc Cruiser engines on it, blah, 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 blah. And they're not doing what they should be doing, which is doing radio. Because
listen to you telling a grown man like Bud what he should be doing.
John, you know me in retirement, the number one cause of death in the United States is retirement.
True. I might get you a little hand towel for that too. Can you imagine if you were in the macrame or quilting business and somebody sold their Etsy shop to a bigger Etsy shop? Can you imagine a woman that did crocheting or macrame going to somebody being like, Agnes should still be in the crochet business, but Megan told me that she sold to a different Etsy operator. I demand that she be in this business and spend her time knitting quilts. I can't believe she sold and is happy living on the lake and catching crappie and catfish. She should be making quilts all day long.
John, do you want me to put on the Pastor Brad, collar? Do you want me to give my...
Yeah, please do.
Okay. What if Jesus, at some point in his life, said, I'm done with this Jesus thing. I'm just going to retire. I'm just going to sit.
And in your analogy here, I'm going to step on you right now. In your analogy, Brad is Jesus, right? Because Brad is continuing the good fight. Brad would rather continue owning 3 melting ice cubes every year than sell out and go have a nice place in Hannibal.
In no way would I ever consider myself to be Jesus, but the point I'm making is that is being selfish. It's being selfish that you're saying, well, I'm retired. And what do most people who are retired say? I can do whatever I want, okay?
That's true.
It's all about them. It should never be about you. It should be about you helping other people. I mean, we've got a crisis right now with the school, and I've gone through this personally. I went to the Hazelwood School District 2 weeks ago. I went to their teacher hiring fair, stuff like that, okay? For me to go back to teach, I've got a bachelor's and a master's degree. For me, it would cost me $20,000 to take a class or take a degree program at UMSL, where I've taught on the college level. I've taught on the junior college level. I taught on the college level at Lindenwood for several years. I taught in the junior college, St. Louis Community College District for 12 years, okay? Why can't I walk into a classroom at Hazelwood High School and teach classes? You know what? To the point where I'm thinking to myself, I could go teach a business class. I could go teach a history class. Why do I have to have the sheepskin? The problem is, if we would essentially say, okay, we got a teacher shortage, instead of all you retired people lounging around your house bragging about you can do whatever you want, go make a difference in the country, go back and teach. But you can't, because you got to jump through the stupid hoops that DESE and everything is put in effect that, you can't teach unless you got your teacher certificate. How many bad teachers are there right now in school teaching who have teacher certificate who suck, and how many good people are out there who would be fantastic teachers who can't teach because they don't have the stupid DESE certification, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, look, Bud James just texted me, and we got to meet for pickleball out in St. Charles at 8:30, so I got to go. He said he's coming in from Hannibal. Did you know that?
You know, there are very few people that I don't take their phone call anymore, but if his name shows up on my phone, I don't talk to him because it's like negative nanny. You know what I mean? Hey, Brad, you still running your radio stations? You still having trouble? I bet you had problems over the weekend. That storm hit. I bet you knocked it off the air. I bet you're out there fixing your transmitter sites. My wife and I were down at the Lake of the Ozarks, and we were just looking at all the trees budding and all the flowers growing and the grass growing. And you were at your transmitter site trying to get it back on the air, right, Brad? Yes, Bud, and I was having fun because my life makes a difference and yours doesn't anymore, okay?
You showed him, Brad.
Right.
Hey, you go to Schnucks and get on that obesity scooter. I got to run.